This here is the Flask 9 from DC Reborn. It is by Joss William and some artist who is not the artist who did the cover, who is the book's regular artist and is quite good at it. The interior artwork is by a fill-in artist, and I didn't have the most patience for fill-in art. I do think that this book's regular artist is really good, but he's not worth having around if every few issues you have to have subpar artwork that doesn't even stylistically match or resemble the book's regular look. I bought this issue because it features the Flask, the Willie West version, and I was incredibly underwhelmed. So Barney Allen, he is the main Flask again. He has been for a while. And I have said before, and I didn't think it really needs repeating, Barney Allen is boring. Most people, they just prefer Willie West as the Flask, and the most enthusiasm that they can drum up for Barney Allen is that he had a pretty good death in Christmas on Infinite Earths. Now, having Barney Allen as the main version of the Flask again, it's just boring. He is a boring character. He is a blank slate most of the time, and there is nowhere to go with this character. And the majority of what they give him to try and make him stand out, they are just hand-me-downs from Willie West's time as the Flask. But if only Barney Allen was the character who I took the most umbrage with in this comic. It's this here. I was going to call him Crap Flask, but I realised a much better name for him is Miles Morales. This guy, he was introduced in the New 52, and he was meant to be the New 52 version of Willie West. His race has no part in this whatsoever. He is a shit character. He would be a shit character if he was white. He would be a shit character if he was green. He would be a shit character if he was silver. Firstly, he is not Willie West. He never was in any way a representation of the Willie West character. Secondly, we have a problem we see a lot with writers nowadays, where they are afraid to write black characters, so they make them really bland and have no distinct personality. So this issue, we have the real Willie West. He shows up and he has a meeting with the fake Willie West, Miles, and it all focuses on Miles. Miles would actually be a good name for a speedster. A bit on the nose, but anything is better than having two characters inexplicably called Willie West. The line is that they are related and they're just both named after the same uncle. The art is amateur, and this is all about propping up Miles. Willie, he has been dragged in to validate him. Miles is a character who doesn't need to exist anymore. He was a lousy slap in the face to Flask fans who were wanting Willie West back. And, well, I suppose if you wanted to have the character hang around, the first thing you need to do is change his name. DC, they were lazy and they just decided to start calling him William West, which is like the least amount of effort you can do. I haven't read much with this character, but from this single issue, I came away with a valid reason and story arc for why he would want to change his name from Willie West. You see, in the New 52, his dad was the shitty New 52 version of Yellow Flask. So why doesn't this kid decide, I didn't want to be forever linked to that guy, so I'll change my surname away from West. Now I can be William Allen or Miles Morales or whatever. I didn't like this comic. It was one of them comics I come across as something the writer just quickly wrote down and then moved on to the next issue. Everything that happens in this is to establish or say something about Miles, or have Barney or Willie say something about Miles. Really, really disappointed. Here is a double splash page of both Willie Wests together. That would be much better if it was drawn by the book's regular artist, rather than this mediocre, less than average fill-in artist. So now, the thing is, we have the real Willie West back, but we also have Miles Morales still around. And this issue, it could have done a lot more to develop a relationship between them, or even just vindicate Miles as a character, make a case for him as a character worth having around. But it is just the standard case of a white writer having white characters fall to the ground and worship a bland black teenager, rather than actually trying to write a black teenager. And now some people are really into this run. They think it is like the best run on the Flask ever. And I cannot speak for that. I have not read it. I didn't like this issue. Maybe the rest is good though. I avoided the run because later into it, the artist, the quality artist who does this cover here, he gets replaced with Raphael the Turtle, who is abysmal and was the first star of my now discontinued feature artists who are overrated acts. Again, I know people like him, they like his art as well, but he is terrible. Liking him doesn't mean that everything I said about his art isn't true. I cannot read any book with his art. It takes us out of the story immediately. Everyone's always looking down or looking up. Nothing is ever drawn from a straight angle. At least he didn't draw this issue though. That is a positive I can offer for this. I didn't recommend the Flask 9. It really was a total disappointment. So that is why it's getting a 7 thumbs up.